So this is Dave from Sheldrake Point here in Ovid, New York, and this is Todd from Finger Lakes Trellis Supply, and this is my side applied fruit zone net made with incredibly tough stuff. And Dave's going to show how he's using the 31-inch fruit zone net on a Scott Henry system, but also to show that, you know, you install this once, no specialty tools, and you leave it out. There's no reason to take it down. Go ahead, Dave.
So when we're done using it, it'd be, when it's in use, it'd be fully extended. So the full 31 inches would be extended down the trellis. And it'd be like, you know, way down there. And as we walk down the row, I'd be on, on the same side of the row that I'm working on. And I'd roll it up tight. And I'd find the last outside layer of that net and pinch it between my fingers, and I'd bring it up and take it over the hook. And then I'm already halfway done with the rolling here. I do the same thing, and I take the last little bit and pinch it over and make sure it gets past the hook, and that's all there is to it. And simple as pie.
And this is tough material. I mean, if you take one of these strands and wrap it around your finger and try to pull it apart,
it cuts your hand.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And this stuff, I've had it out in the field. I know customers have had it for over 20 some odd years. I like to tell people to get 15 years out of it, but if I'm wrong, you get 20 or 25.
Well, Bob Ruiz has had it out for, he's had it for 10 years. And it was there with the previous owner for at least 10 years.
No, I sold it to him, about 10 years, and he leaves it out.
Yep. And this is 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. Is as good as new.
Yep. And like in his system, it's a VSP. You can actually drop it early. You just take it down and just let it hang, because the air moves through it. It doesn't catch it. It's originally designed as an overhead hail net system. So in those thunderstorms, you don't want it scooping and holding the air and busting the post off. So you can spray through it, but the benefit of dropping it early is it trains the shoot. So again, another labor saving. You don't have time to come back and tuck. It does a lot of it for you. Plus it'll give you some hail protection as well, even a little bit with deer too. So
you can say it's a deer deterrent before you tighten it up. When you tighten it up, it's much better at keeping the deer out.
And then anything with deer, once you think you have a solution, you'll learn a few years later they'll adapt to that, and it's not a solution aside from high wire, fixed knot fence, and not even electricity. I like to leave that for the Amish. It's
I've seen them go right through electric fences too.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Too much can go wrong. So you want to show them how you're gonna, when it's in use, how you set it, because right now it's obviously in winter storage mode.
So when we're using it, we take it off the hook, roll it down. There'll be a person either side, and just walk along and do this, and I do the same on the other side. Unhook it.
No specialty tools, equipment, as opposed to like over the row netting machines to pay it out or pick it up.
No, it's very simple. And we like to use skewers. I don't have any with me right now, but we use what you can get at like your restaurant supply place around us. It's B&W in Ithaca. But we'd hold that together and put a skewer through both pieces of that and back
just
again.
Stitch it through.
Stitch it together. And the nice thing about the skewers is they are biodegradable, cheap. And
if you drop it, they're reusable for a while. But if you were like doing ice wine, you would keep it pinched up and even a little bit tighter.
Well, the trick with the ice wine is to get it tight around either trunk with a skewer on either side. And do the same around every post. So you stitch it together between the vines and either side of the vines and around the posts.
And give it a couple rolls. And I got that tag it gun, tag it barb. That's fast too. And you just stride along with your bin, pull it out. But if you were mechanically harvesting, whatever your method is, but what's nice about the tag it gun is you pop it apart, and you can. Now, have you mechanical harvest with the net on?
When we mechanical harvest, we roll the nets up before they get here, and that works good for us. But we've never done ice wine with this kind of net. It'd be nice to do it. But we can't get a guy with a harvester here during ice wine, so
right.
It doesn't matter.
Like over at Bob's that you were saying, I know Tunker was over there doing some mechanical harvesting, and so like over on his VSP system, and he would just fold it up once, and what he noticed running the harvester, it gave more surface area for the arms to beat against, and he could get more grapes off faster
Probably
and
with
do
less
less stress to
damage
the
to the
trellis
vines. Yeah.
system.
And to the vines.
Yep.
If you had, you know, quite often a new vineyard, if you're going to mechanical harvest a young vineyard and you don't have as many canes as an older vineyard would, a more mature vineyard, that would provide something for the harvester to push against.
Yeah. Yep.
To harvest. And you wouldn't have to run your harvester as hard.
Yep.
Saving your vines.
Yep.
So,
yep. And your post and everything else. And I'll tell you, what are some of the other benefits that you see? What I've heard from growers is because of the size of this hole, so now you have less insects getting in particular like the wasp or the yellow jackets that are biting that cluster and piercing it. Then come along other bugs, and then comes along disease.
Right. Mostly, actually, what I don't know about insects. I'm not going to agree with you there, Todd. Sorry.
I'm just saying what customers say that it's helped. Yeah. I'm not saying it's the insect solution.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But what I do like
observations.
about these is you can get the nets down, many tens of acres in a day. You know,
Yeah.
you can drop these nets in a hurry, and the first day you drop the nets, you haven't got them closed yet. It's enough of a bird deterrent that it buys you the margin of time that you need to get them tightened up.
Yep.
And whereas over the row netting, like you were saying earlier, you got to get the machine out. You got to have the special machine. 2 or 3
snags
guys.
on everything.
Yeah.
Snags on you.
And it's a huge deal to if you got to throw it out, you got a whole pile of
yeah.
netting to throw.
Have you
out.
ever noticed like you could just take a roll of this stuff, lay it in between the rows. I always stumble over that, and you'll see that, and just kick the roll down the row, but yet you could still move it across the grass because you think we'd almost have like this Velcro effect.
And it would pick up the sticks like the other netting
and
does.
snag, and it really doesn't, which is I kind of thought that was interesting. Yeah, it's just simple. I mean, on the end, you're just tying the end.
Yeah, we staple it to the ends too.
Yep, and I've seen guys take a board, roll it, and then
Kinda
put a zip screw in it. Yep.
Yeah.
You don't want to pull the net too tight because you can pull it to make the net go further, but then you're getting the net too close to the fruit. Right. You need some room.
Yeah. What surprises me the most is we won't tighten up the top of the net, right? We'll just leave it open like these catch wires are. But it gets a little closer together when you get to the metal posts. But we've never had birds give us trouble getting in the top of the net. I think once you get a bird confined, or it has to be confined to get at the food, it's not going to stay there. They don't like to be confined.
And they don't like to fly down into it.
No, they
wanna
won't go in
fly
there.
up.
They don't want to go in there. But the one thing we have had trouble with is with some very attractive varieties like muscat, we'll have raccoons go right up into the netting and go down the row in the netting. So you have to get the net super tight if you have an attractive, super
Right.
tight as far as you have to close the top and the bottom with skewers to keep
Well,
the
if you
raccoons
ever
out.
get a chance, look real close at a raccoon.
Yeah,
Actually,
they got
one of
hands.
its paws,
Yeah.
besides a hand, it actually is like a multi-tool.
Yeah.
And he's got a knife and some snips on there.
Yeah, he
so
does. He does.
These trash bandits,
Yeah.
they're pretty clever. So yeah, I always tell people start off with less of these hooks. Have some extra on hand, and then come back, add more where you need to save money, and to pull that across. But I'll tell you, I do have growers that like Long Island or the East Coast where it's like Armageddon with some of the birds that
Right.
you really have to you got
Stitch
to you got to close it up tight.
You got to seal it up
And
tight.
I don't know what
Yeah.
type of bird it is, but it's a real small bird.
Yep.
And so I don't care what kind of net you have.
Oh.
You just got to take that extra due diligence with the clip or more of these or hooks. You can be creative with this.
One time we had
and close it up tighter if you got that extra pressure.
we had side curtain netting on an ice wine harvest, right? And we're having deer kind of bite at the berries through the net. And they were getting some contact because the net wasn't held out away from the fruit. And we had the top and bottom closed with the skewers and with the hooks. And what we had to do to keep the deer off is we made bows out of grape canes and tied them to the top and bottom wires that the net was associated with. And that kept the netting away from the fruit.
Yeah.
So the deer weren't they weren't so interested. But sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah,
You know,
it is. Or you build a deer fence.
Yeah.
And even at that, then you got to get those
Yeah,
deer out there that live in your vineyard,
Well, they
which
like to live in
can
the vineyard.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do.
why wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, you provide all the food if you don't
And
hunt them.
cover, and
Yeah.
the water. But this net is more money, but really in the long run,
It's less money in the long run. It lasts longer.
yep, lasts longer. It's lower labor to put in. You
Better.
get more benefits out of it.
It's good stuff. Yeah. If I was going to do one or the other to start with, it'd be this one.
Yeah. And this is in 43 inch. This here you're seeing is 31 inch.
Yeah,
and,
I think so.
And he's using this in the
Scott Henry.
Scott Henry training system. Yep.
Pinot Gris.
On Pinot Gris.
Yeah, around here we couldn't have the varieties we couldn't grow without bird netting are Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Merlot, and Gamay. The Cab Franc and the Riesling for regular harvest you can grow without netting, but as soon as you get into those other varieties here, and it's all what tastes good to the birds.
In your micro situation.
In our microclimate, yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's interesting. It's different all over the place. But I think that this is the best value in it's a 1,000 meters, so 3,280 foot roll. And it's like this big around, yay tall. I want to say it's like 110 pounds, and you can just put in the back of your UTV, flip it over so it pays out like a roll of paper towel from the bottom. Close the tailgate, do a granny knot, tie it off, and you start paying it out. And put your work apron on, get the hooks, and people just start coming along and just hanging it. Keep it simple, stupid, and now people like to say, well, it's going to get in the way. The tendrils are going to grow up into it. It's going to get in the way of pruning. What's your experience with that, Dave?
Well, I don't mind it for pruning or shoot positioning or anything like that. It's fine. The one time it bothers me a little bit is when I'm tying, because I have a harder time seeing the wires. That's the only time I notice it. And it's partly my height. I'm at the right height, so
Yeah, you're tall.
I have to look down through the net. A lot of people don't have to look through the net as much.
And I'm on stilts right now, and see how much shorter I am next to him.
But yeah, that's the only time I find it a little frustrating to work with a net, is tying the vines. But if it's rolled up tight, it's much better.
Yeah. Well, I think much of the labor today is probably more vertically challenged than you are.
Well, could be.
It could be. You're like basketball player size.
I'm a short basketball player.
Okay, these days that could be. That could be.
I know I am.
Yeah, because people worry about that the tendrils are going to grow up into it and snag in the net.
No such luck.
Yep. And you do see the occasional one that's grown into it, but it's a really small one. It just pulls right out. Because I mean, this stuff is tough, and it's high carbon, so it's going to last. But I mean, if you were to take a loose piece of this, like dental floss, and to pull on it, you could probably cut your fingers off damn near, or you'd make a nice cut in it. Yeah, to the bone.
Yeah, I never had trouble. Gewurz. This is Pinot Gris, and Gewurz would be the worst one with tendrils, and never had any trouble with tendrils and this stuff. It doesn't seem to happen. I don't know why.
Yeah, nice. So, and you've been using this net from me several years now in different locations down here.
Since 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. Started with it in 2006, and we do have both nettings, over the row and this. And like I said, if I was going to start with one, if I was going to have one, choose one, it would be this one, because it's easier to get on. You don't put it on and off, but it's easier to deploy.
Yep.
As soon as you think you're going to get bird damage, down it goes, or even ahead of time, no problem.
Yeah. But I would definitely think about dropping it sooner.
Right.
I forget the fellow that he used to work for here, but he ended up going over the other side of the lake for a period of time over by.
Oh, Gary Berliner?
Yeah, he worked for Gary and
Dan,
Steve. Yeah, Dan. Yeah. And I always remember the story. So there was this hailstorm coming, and you could see it coming across the lake, and this is early May. And ran out because he remembered me talking to him about drop that net. Don't be afraid of just dropping it, because does the wind catch this?
No.
And
enough to worry about.
To drop it down, and so he was only able to drop a portion of the vineyard, and the hail actually ended up missing him. But the point being was he didn't have time to go hang the net back up. So you know how things start happening fast in the spring, and all of a sudden now you're out of control with your chute tucking. But where he dropped the net, it was already doing a lot of its own training. It
The
saved,
shoots are guided up.
yeah, that's a good description.
Yeah.
And it's an additional benefit that you get out of this, and growers are always coming back at me with things that they learned. What about spraying through it? What's your...
I don't think it makes any difference at all. I don't have an apples to apples comparison. I do. Yeah, I have Chardonnay down below with over the row netting. It's an older block. That's what we're doing then. And this is a newer block, and it's got the side curtain netting, and disease pressure, I can't see any difference one to the other.
Yep.
And I spray the whole year without, up until a little bit post veraison with the over the row netting, and then that's put on a little bit after veraison, and then this is put down after we pull leaves. So it's put on probably a month earlier, and it doesn't stop the spray at all. I don't see any difference.
Yeah, and you're using that controlled over the row, zoned.
Right.
Yeah, and you're still able to control it. Don't feel like you're going through any more chemicals to penetrate it than you would anything different.
No, and when you're done spraying, it's not like you can wring spray out of the net. Nothing's being held by the net. It doesn't hold spray. So
right.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's good to know. So would you give it a try, dropping it a little bit sooner? Well, obviously this design's not going to be, but if you were up on a different, VSP.
Oh yeah, I'd do it sooner. I wouldn't have any trouble with that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any disadvantage.
Yeah.
It all comes down to labor. What do you want to spend your labor on? If you've got the time to do it, yeah,
yeah,
it would help.
Yep. And the tendrils don't affect it. I did have one more question I thought of, but of course, I'm old and that's
gone
gone.
now?
Oh yeah, it's over there somewhere. So
You'll remember tomorrow.
yeah, I will. All right, Dave. I appreciate more input from you. We're grower driven and constantly seeking solutions and better ways and sharing information and not just the Finger Lakes, but all these areas that I travel. Because one thing I've learned, there's always like these micro regions of how to do things, because that's what it is in that neighborhood. Well, each region's got something really good to share with the other, so I kind of be a lightning rod for that information. And I've been at this quite a while, and I've seen or done a couple things, and I get the joy of working with Dave and learning from a smart guy like this. So thanks again, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome, Tom.
All right.
Pleasure to be involved.